More than 1,500 people per week die from taking some opioids, according to the National Center for Health Statistics, making opioids by far the leading cause of fatal overdoses in the country. In recent years, the crisis has become defined by fentanyl, a synthetic opioid that is 50 times more potent than heroin. Dr. Raymond Ward, a family medicine doctor at Cope Family Medicine in Bountiful, Utah, unpacks the steep increase in synthetic opioid deaths over the last few years.
So I see a lot of patients in my practice who have problems with opioid addiction. Most of the ones who I see are stable and we've been seeing them for a while, but the new patients that we come in are a mix of what things that they're on. I don't have a lot of patients come in here where they intentionally were seeking out fentanyl. Some of them took fentanyl accidentally, and some of them have almost died from taking fentanyl accidentally, but many of them did not mean to get fentanyl. But out in the wide world, it's a mix of both. I mean, fentanyl is stronger than heroin, so someone who is seeking more of a high than heroin could seek it out. It just gets very difficult for anybody to tell what they're getting. Fentanyl strips are a product that come from different places where a person who has a problem with drug use can use some of these little strips to tell if the pills that they bought have some fentanyl in them or not. But in general, I think if a person is regularly using any kind of pill on the street that they buy, that person for sure is accidentally going to get some fentanyl.
Fentanyl is often found in counterfeit pills that are made to resemble prescription drugs. This includes prescription pain relievers like oxycodone, stimulants like Adderall, and other drugs like cocaine, methamphetamine, and heroin. You are at risk for a fentanyl overdose if you buy pills from any source that is not a licensed pharmacy.
Now, I don't think that it's useful really to say fentanyl addiction or heroin addiction. There's opiate addiction. So any medicine that's an opiate is going to have a similar set of terrible withdrawal symptoms. It's going to have the same set of possible treatments for someone. So any narcotic addiction, including to fentanyl, would be treated by medication-assisted treatment, which is buprenorphine or methadone, or in some cases Vivitrol. But I don't know how to say if that's more or less horrible than methamphetamine addiction. And our problem really in the United States right now is because we've had two things go wrong. Well, things have been going wrong for us for 20 years, 25 years, but two things have gone more wrong in the last 3 years. And those two things are a large rise in the amount of fentanyl mixed into all the drugs that are on the street. So even for the same number of people who are taking drugs on the street, a larger number will die because of the fentanyl that's in there, but also a large amount of very cheap, very pure methamphetamine. So the overdose deaths right now in the United States, which are the highest they have ever been, there are about 110,000 people died last year in the United States from an overdose death, and those were about a third from fentanyl, about a third from methamphetamine, and about a third from something else. All the other bad things put together equal either fentanyl or methamphetamine.
Because fentanyl is so strong, it does not take a lot to cause an overdose, especially for someone who does not usually take opioids. In 2021, the latest year in which data is available, nearly 645,000 people in America died from opioid overdose. An estimated 88% of them involved fentanyl.
If I had my wish, the other thing that we would change is doctors who write opioid prescriptions need to write less of them. They need to be honest about how often it happens that they permanently damage someone by starting them on a medication. For people who have chronic pain, the doctors need to be honest about the fact that long-term opiates do not make chronic pain any better, they make it worse. So best case scenario, if you give a person with chronic pain opioids, is you make them somewhat worse, but they're still stable. Worst case scenario is you make their pain worse over time, and then they're not stable, and then they overdose and die, and others in their family are also injured from it. There needs to be much more attention paid to how often the prescription is the thing that starts the addiction. People aren't dying as much from prescription overdoses right now because of how bad the fentanyl is out there, but most of the people who die from an opiate overdose still got started with a prescription that was given to them.